We're going off-piste a little. Who do you think was the halftime act at the Super Bowl that you just heard Thomas refer to in the news? Who do you think the halftime act was? Because you can only answer this question. Don't ring in. You can only answer this question if you haven't been paying like huge amounts of attention. You certainly can't answer it if you watched the halftime act at the Super Bowl. That would just be stupid. Most people my age, probably, if I even say the words halftime act at the Super Bowl, you find yourself thinking about Janet Jackson's nipple. Am I right? Isn't that? No? Isn't that what? I mean, that was the only time that the halftime act at the Super Bowl will have registered with British people on a particularly high level who don't routinely watch the Super Bowl. I can't get my head around American football. Don't at me. I will do one day. It used to be a bit like that with rugby league. I love rugby league now. But American football, I'll tell you what. As a rule, when I'm watching a sport, if I can't tell where the ball is, I'm not going to be very highly engaged with the action on the pitch. But I know that's a me problem, not a you problem. So who do you think performed during halftime at the Super Bowl this year? Was it A, Janet Jackson? Was it B, Taylor Swift? Or was it C, Usher? Yeah, you're wrong. It was Taylor Swift. I beg your pardon, it was Usher. Everyone thinks it was Taylor Swift because everywhere you turn, you're seeing reports. There's pictures of Taylor Swift. There's headlines with Taylor Swift's name in. That poor old Usher has been sort of pushed into second place. The funniest things I read over the course of the weekend were congratulations to Taylor Swift for winning the Super Bowl. So what did Taylor Swift do at the Super Bowl to garner these extraordinary headlines, including one that says Taylor Swift's appearance at the Super Bowl helped it become the most watched broadcast in US television history since the 1969 moon landing? What did she do? She didn't do anything. She just turned up to watch. She may have chugged an ale at one point. She may have necked a beer. That's all that she did. A 34-year-old woman went to watch her boyfriend play sport and has been credited with helping to create the most watched television broadcast in American television history since they landed on the actual moon in 1969. And some people listening to this programme will still not be quite clear about who Taylor Swift actually is, or what it is about her that merits this extraordinary level of, what would you call it? Fame. Why is she so famous? She has released 10 albums, with one on the way. She's re-recorded 4 albums because of contractual shenanigans involving a bloke. You see, you think I'm on thin ice on this. You're going to be stunned by my knowledge here. Scooter, his name is. Scooter something. Scooter Braun? Someone bought the rights to her records and she was so hacked off about it that she re-recorded them so that she'd have her own version of records that were now owned by somebody else. Indeed, it is called, for the 4 that she's done off the top of my head, Fearless, Red, Speak Now, and 1989. 4 Taylor's versions currently out there. So for a young woman who has released that number of just 10 albums with one on the way, what on earth explains this extraordinary phenomenon? How are we going to do this? Because I know and I don't know. I'm a 52-year-old man. That may be part of the problem here. So I know and I don't know. I know that she's an extraordinary talent who has defied all preconceptions about pop music in general, genre-based music in particular. I think when folklore came out, the confidence, the musical confidence, which was only enhanced with Evermore, was extraordinary. So her talent probably wasn't absolutely front and centre in 2006 when her first LP, does anyone say LP anymore? What do you say? Album was released. But this isn't just about the music. In Australia, they've just started a course, a symposium. It's called the Swift Posium, and it is at Melbourne University, where they're going to explore her status as a sort of cultural behemoth. There are proper academics queuing up to offer thoughts on why her popularity appears to be unique. Time magazine made her Person of the Year in 2023. And there is currently no sign of this bizarre level of international fame diminishing or diluting in any way. Listen, if her boyfriend is an American football player, and if you're American, you would have known who he was and you'd have known all about him before. But the level of renown that has come to Travis Kelce as a consequence of him going out with Taylor Swift, people are claiming she might swing the next election in America. That if she throws her full weight against Donald Trump and behind either Joe Biden or perhaps somebody else, that she could actually motivate and mobilise enough American young people to affect the result of the election. So as soon as, and you can tell people are genuinely considering that possibility by the fact that she's now got QAnon conspiracies all of her very own. And yet I don't want to say just a pop star. That would be like saying John Lennon and Paul McCartney were just pop stars, or Elvis Presley was just a pop star. But and I suppose Beyonce would be the only artist in the 21st century to merit a comparison in terms of scale and impact. But for my money, she's bigger than all of them in the current climate, in the current world. And I want you to explain why to somebody who genuinely doesn't know. And it's got to go beyond the music. It's got to go beyond the music. What is it about Taylor Swift that explains her intergalactic levels of fame and influence? All right? Hit the numbers now. You will get through. 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. There's a university course on her now. She has become, says one of the people that teaches on that course, a former Rolling Stone reporter, she has somehow become the most godlike superstar on the planet, bigger than I thought was even possible. And this is someone who taught the first ever university course on Taylor Swift, speaking at this symposium in Melbourne in the last couple of days. She is one of the most celebrated artists of all time, one of the highest earning artists of all time, and yet none of that is quite enough to explain these unique levels of renown and influence. So, for people who don't know, of whom there will be millions, and for people who know but don't know, of whom there will be millions more, myself included, why is Taylor Swift so extraordinarily famous, stroke influential, stroke important? Let's just go with important, actually. I love it when the programme edits itself live on air. Why is Taylor Swift so important? 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. And I speak as someone who understands elements of it. So she has, I mean, for good or for ill, because I think latterly the amount of money she charges for merchandise and tickets doesn't speak of a particularly deep regard for her fans. And I will take that on the chin if you want to come for me. But she did create in the minds of her fans a unique connection, the likes of which, and I used to be a showbiz journalist, and I love pop music. And the way I feel, for example, about George Michael would be a typical teenager, even at my age now. I understand what adulation is or fanaticism is in the context of pop music. But Taylor Swift creates in the minds of her young fans, and they're not young anymore, creates in the minds of her fans a connection, a belief that she is their friend or that she understands them in a way that other people don't. And you can say that about lots of pop stars, but again, with her, not on the same scale. Not on the same scale. Why? So I get that. I've seen her twice live, and I should have seen her 3 times. But all right, I'll tell you, I've become a bit of a snob. A ticket snob. So I'm very blessed in that I get invited to things. including the Six Nations rugby, despite what Popbitch wrote about me last week, claiming I was ringing around PR companies trying to get free tickets for the rugby. Number one, I couldn't go to the rugby this weekend. And number two, I get invited most years to the Ireland-England, well, if it's at Twickenham, to the Ireland-England game. But anyway, I'm a bit worried about that because all the stuff I've read in Popbitch over the years that I thought was wonderfully scurrilous, maybe as utterly baseless as the stuff they wrote about me last week. But I digress. I get invited to stuff and I get used to having really good seats. So we had tickets for the 1975 last year and I didn't go because they were normal tickets. They were right up in the gods at the O2. And the girls went with their mum and Taylor Swift was the surprise guest on stage. So the last time we went to the 1975, we went as guests of the band, right, which was fantastic. Matty Healy, the lead singer, had been on Full Disclosure. He's rung the show a couple of times. I think the man's an absolute god. But I didn't even know they'd bought tickets. I think it might have been a birthday present. One of the girls bought it for her sister. We had 4 tickets, but you've been to the O2, and you know the difference between being near the stage and being not near the stage. So I didn't go, and I missed it. So I missed Taylor Swift coming onto the stage as a surprise guest at the 1975 concert. So I do know a little bit of what I talk, of what I speak. But the scale, it's got to be the scale of it. What is it about her that puts her on a different planet from every other pop star in the business and possibly in history?